Hi everyone. This is the 22nd episode for the Climb and Flow podcast, and today's guest is none other than Mina Leslie-Wujastyk, and I'm hoping I'm pronounced that correctly. She's an extremely accomplished climber and has got some amazing achievements under her belt. I hope you enjoy the chat and let you listen to the podcast.
Remind me how old your kids are.
Uh, Leon's nearly 17.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Grown-ups.
and Saname turned 14 a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, wow. You're in a
Yeah.
different phase.
Oh,
Teenagers.
completely different phase. Like I think looking back at I think for me, I think as the dad, I found it the hardest when they were youngest. I think maybe Carrie, my wife, did too. Um, because you're trying to guess their needs.
Yeah.
And you're never quite sure what their needs are, whether it's food. I mean, it's some form of discomfort. So you're just trying to guess what it is.
Yeah.
And then once they're able to communicate, it just makes it just a bit easier. And
Yeah.
now that Leon's the eldest is a full-on teenager,
Mm,
yeah, that's different.
I can't imagine it. My little boy, Isaac, he's 4. He starts school next week. Big
Yeah,
school, reception. And I'm just like, can't imagine him
yeah.
being a teenager.
I
Yeah.
know.
Wild.
I remember that first day we went to primary school.
Mm,
And sitting down on the little chairs, I'm like, it didn't feel that long ago when I was sat there.
yeah.
Like I might be older, but in my head, I don't feel my age.
Yeah. It just goes, eh?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
goes quickly. Yeah, it goes really quickly. Yeah. Cool. Um, I've got, do you know what? When I started doing some research on you,
Mm.
there's so many questions I'd love to ask you.
Oh,
But
that's good.
yeah,
Better than coming up with nothing.
oh yeah, there's so much. So if I look off screen, it's not because I'm disinterested, it's because I've just got loads of stuff written down.
No worries. That's fine.
Um, cool. So just going through my list, you've bolded up to what is it, 8B, sport client 8C, trad client E7. You competed on international level at bouldering.
Hmm.
You've got a degree in physiotherapy, a postgraduate degree in counseling and psychotherapy. You are a nutritionist and an eating counselor. You are publishing a book in a month's time. Yeah,
Yeah.
called Eat to Climb. Is that right?
Hmm.
Yeah. And you've published a paper on nutritional considerations for female rock climbers. And you are a mum of two.
Mm.
That's busy.
When you put it like that, that sounds pretty busy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's it. I mean, lots of accomplishments in there. Quite a driven personality.
Yeah. Yeah, you could say driven. I think also a little bit flaky is the wrong word, but like I change direction quite a
Okay,
bit. I
okay,
think I and maybe it's funny, I've got my husband's voice in my head being like, you get bored easily.
okay,
Like I like learning things. I really like learning things. So I
okay,
think I like get really into something and then I like learn loads about it. And then I do it for a bit and then I kind of see something else and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then I kind of deep dive into that. So I think some of that is reflected in what you just described and how busy it sounds
okay,
is that, and there's a few things that I've done that aren't on that list as well, not necessarily
okay,
qualifications, but like I've worked in, like I did my yoga teacher training and I worked as a yoga teacher for a few years.
okay,
I also used to work in like a supported housing project in Sheffield, like when I first finished university. So I worked, I guess that ties in with the counselling and psychotherapy a little bit, but I worked as like, a bit more like a support worker kind of role. But again, it's that like, um, I get really into something and then I do it for a while and then I change
okay,
direction. So there's a little bit of me that like doesn't trust myself, if that makes any sense, when I
okay.
get really into something
Do
because I don't know how long it's going to be before I'll lose interest and then I'll be chasing the next kind of interesting thing.
Okay, so is that because you get bored easily?
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know.
But
I think I get,
you're
no,
still
sorry, go on.
climbing.
Sorry?
You're still climbing.
Yeah, that's like the one thing that I've just never got bored of.
Okay.
Never got bored of, never lost interest in.
And David,
Um,
maybe?
yeah, that's true actually. Him too. Yeah. 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 I'm going to remind him of
Yeah,
that.
yeah, two things, right? Two important things.
Yeah.
Cool. So, I guess where did you grow up?
I grew up in, well, I mean, I was born in Oxford, lived there till I was kind of 3 or 4, so I don't really remember that. And then we moved to kind of suburbs of London, so just outside London, end of the Met Line, like Amersham area.
Okay.
So I grew up there. And then when I went to university, I moved to Sheffield. And then I was in Sheffield for kind of 15 years. And then I moved out to the Peak about 3 years ago.
Okay. So
So
whereabouts
kind
do
of,
you live now?
so out in the Peak, I live near Raventall, near kind of Tyneside
Ah,
Luton
okay,
area.
cool.
Yeah.
Why do you choose Raventall?
Um, technically not at Raventall, not like in the
Okay, yeah, of
cave at the
course,
back.
yeah.
We live in the village at the end of the road, so if, like it's called Lytton Mill. It's a short. There is a mill there, but the whole village is called Lytton Mill, and
Okay.
we live there. It was a bit by chance, really. We were looking to move out to the Peak District in general from Sheffield,
Yeah.
and we were moving in that classic, COVID era. And it was just really difficult time to move because there was a lot, it was very competitive. And we kind of almost gave up, to be honest. And then I won't bore you with the full story, but we essentially ended up knowing some climbers who lived in the house that we now live in, and kind of found out that they were moving away, and they said, "Well, do you want to buy our house?" And it all kind of happened, very
Okay.
organically that way. And so we kind
Okay.
of went, "Well, let's just go for it and see."
So,
But originally, we didn't want to be this far out from Sheffield, but
yeah.
actually, now that we're here, we love it.
I guess so you're quite a regular at Raventall then.
I am,
Still.
yeah.
Yeah.
Was perfect when you've got young kids as well. I
Yeah.
think if we lived in Sheffield, I would probably climb at the wall a lot more.
Yeah.
So I've kind of sacrificed that. I don't go to like climbing walls very much anymore, but I do go out climb outside a lot. And for me, that's a better way round.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
So when did your climbing journey start?
I was 8, and I went. I used to just kind of climb around, the house, typical child thing, climb up the banisters,
Yeah.
climb up the door frames. And my parents weren't climbers, but they kind of looked into it to see if climbing was a thing that you could do. And it turns out it was a thing. So they took me along it was like a really old school, one of those outdoor walls. It was in Bovingdon. I can't remember what it was called. And it was, yeah, they just took me along. And I remember seeing this guy climbing on the wall outside and just being like, wow, it's amazing. And actually, funnily enough, my mum went and spoke to someone and was like, "Oh, my daughter would like to try climbing," and they didn't really have an in for me because they didn't have kids clubs
Yeah.
then at that place. They didn't have kids clubs. They didn't have like they didn't do private lessons. There wasn't really like an in for me to try it. And my mum was a bit like, "Oh, right. Oh, that's a shame." And then she saw this kids group and she was like, "Well, what's that kids group then?" And they were like, "Oh, that's the Boy Scouts." And my mum was like, "Oh, well, great. My daughter goes to Brownies. Like, do the Brownies come here?" And they were like, "No, no, just the Boy Scouts." And my mum was like, "Oh, right. So basically what you're telling me is if she was a boy, there would be a way in here."
Right.
And, my mum basically pressed the right buttons in that conversation, and they were like, we'll sort something out." And then they agreed to like give me some lessons, basically.
Okay.
Um,
Good on your mum.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, she was a bit of a staunch feminist, so I think she probably wouldn't have let that one go.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, then I started going like once a week with my sister, and we, kind of went from there. And then there was a wall called the Climb in Amersham, and that opened up maybe a year or two after I'd started going to the Bovingdon Wall, and that was like 10 minutes from our house. So very soon I just switched over to that wall and became
Yeah.
a regular. My Saturday job was there, and when I got a bit older, and that became like my little community, and it was awesome.
Cool. Cool. And then I guess at what point did you start taking climbing a bit more seriously?
Um, Probably after I finished uni.
Yeah,
So
okay.
sorry, seriously, it depends what you mean by seriously.
Seriously, I mean, you started competing when you were a bit younger, right?
Yeah, so I did start competing. I did like the bricks and things like that, but I never made like the junior British team or anything. I remember really like looking up to those girls, and
Okay.
I'd make the finals maybe of like the bricks, which is called something else now. I don't even know what it's called now.
Okay.
Um, so I would like maybe go to the final, but then I wouldn't make the podium. And I never made the kind of youth British team or anything. And it's funny because some of those girls are my friends now, like Katie Whittaker and Hazel Finley. And I remember just
Yeah.
being like, wow, those girls are so strong. And like Gemma and, and now they're friends. But we didn't meet each other till much. Well, we did meet, but, we didn't know each other or know each other as friends until many years later because I wasn't really in that kind of tight-knit crew at that point.
Yeah.
Um, because just wasn't climbing at their level. Um, and then I stopped competing. I remember going to a competition, I can't remember how old I was, 12, 13. And I remember just like really not liking the vibe. I remember seeing quite a lot of tears in the people that were like doing well at the top. And I don't know, I can't remember, I can't pinpoint exactly what happened, but I remember just being like, oh, this isn't really how I want to feel about this thing that I really love.
Yeah.
So I remember saying to my dad on the drive back, like, I don't know if I want to do these competitions anymore. And so I kind of stopped competing. And by that point, I'd had a taste of outdoor climbing. I'd been to Font and done a few been down to Portland and climbed on the grit a bit. And also, I was like becoming a teenager and spending more time with my friends and then my mum got quite unwell and we had a load of like difficult stuff at home. And so I ended up taking a couple of years completely off climbing.
Okay.
Um, it just kind of faded into the background as other things became more kind of important at the time. And I think looking back as well, I mean, I think I was actually just pretty depressed. Like my mum was really poorly, she died, and my dad and my parents' relationship broke down at the same time. So I ended up quite on my own. Um, it's funny looking back at it now because it feels like a completely different lifetime, but I think it
Yeah.
really shaped me as well.
Okay.
Um, and so I had a couple of years where I was more in kind of survival mode, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Uh, Getting through my A-levels, getting into a position where I could just move away
Yeah.
and like to start again, basically. But I'd always wanted to go to Sheffield. And it was funny because I'd always wanted to go to Sheffield because of the climbing. But then by the time I got to my university applications, I wasn't climbing. I was just trying to like get through. But still somehow Sheffield was at the top of my list.
Yeah.
And so I moved to Sheffield. But the first year I was at uni, I didn't climb because again, I was just like recalibrating life. And towards the end of my first year, I remember I just went to the Foundry. I thought, oh, maybe I'll get back into climbing. And I think looking back, that was me kind of almost like resurfacing from all the mess and kind of psychologically waking up again a bit and being like, oh, okay, what actually do I enjoy?
Yeah.
Um, and I went down to the Foundry and I remembered they were so friendly. And that could have been if I'd gone and just had a bit, because I just turned up on my own.
Yeah.
I could have had like, an average experience and been like, oh, nah, and then not, never gone back to climbing. But I remember they were so friendly. It was so nice. I climbed and I've just got that buzz and was a bit like, oh, yeah, okay. And then after that, everything was just climbing again.
Yeah.
Mm.
Do you not find that the climbing community is quite like that anyway?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it is. I guess that's just like, um, yeah, a really kind of visceral memory of experiencing that in a really important moment.
Yeah.
Because I remember being nervous turning up to a wall on my own and being a bit like, oh, I haven't climbed in 2 years. I used to be good at this. I'm probably
Yeah.
not anymore. I basically hadn't really done much exercise in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I didn't look like a climber anymore.
Yeah.
And I was out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And then to have a group of people that you've never met before make you feel really at ease not knowing probably how much baggage I was bringing with me at that point and how much it maybe meant to me to step back into that community. It
Yeah.
was really nice. Yeah.
Ah, cool.
Mm.
Yeah, no, I've found the climbing community quite supportive. I think it's seems to be a group of like almost like society's outcasts that don't quite fit in somewhere, and they seem to kind of fit into climbing. And
Mm.
I guess it doesn't matter whether you climb. I think the grades don't really matter, and I've seen people from all ages and backgrounds and abilities being very supportive of everyone.
Mm.
Quite like it. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah. So when you got back into climbing, that was, I guess, university time. At which point did you? So you're studying physiotherapy,
Mm.
yeah. and then you got back into climbing and started to compete when you got a bit better.
Yeah, trying to think 'cause it's so long ago. This is like I went to uni 2005 to 2008.
Okay.
So I think it must have been,
God, yeah, that's 20 years, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, I
So it must have
know.
been the end of my first year would have been summer to 2026. I started climbing again. I got in with a group of climbers that were like really fun, and we did a lot of climbing. We also did a lot of going out and partying, and it was like
Yeah.
a really fun phase. And it was probably a nice way to get back into it, quite low key
Yeah.
in terms of like performance or anything. But then I remember, I think it was the year I graduated. So I think it was this summer of 20, no, 2008
Yeah.
that I decided to do the British Championships. And I can't remember why I decided to do it. I can't remember why. I've
Okay.
no idea why suddenly out of the blue I thought, oh, I'll do this. Because I don't think, unless my memory's failing me, I'd been competing much in that time before.
Okay.
I think I just thought, oh, I'll have a go. And because I remember a load of my friends had been out the night before and I didn't go out because I was like, no, no, I'm going to go to bed and get a good night's sleep
Yeah.
because I'm going to go and do the British champs. And then some of them came to watch and they'd like been up all night. And anyway, I did well. I think I came third.
Okay.
And this is in the British bouldering champs. And I got invited onto the British team.
Ah, cool.
And then that was kind of, I was like, oh, okay. I'm going to do some more of this because maybe I'm all right at it.
Yeah.
And then I then got in almost with a different crowd through that of people that were more performance focused.
Yeah.
And I liked it. And it rubbed, some of their kind of traits, I guess, appealed to me and it rubbed off on me, the training and oh, try this and oh, try that. And then people that were kind of, I guess, taking it a bit more seriously.
Yeah.
And that was the summer I met David as well.
Yeah.
We didn't get together then. We were kind of really good friends for a few years first, but he was probably like my best friend quite
Oh,
quickly. And and he'd always been really, he came from a background of other sports, so
yeah.
he'd always been really into like training for climbing from quite early and like performance and kind of pushing it.
Yeah.
Um, Whereas I'd said I was a lot more recreational before that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I kind of got into that kind of side of it then. Yeah, and started going on more trips. And I guess I'd also graduated, but I didn't get a job as a physio straight away because I actually never worked as a physio in the end. Because I don't know, like, yeah, again, long story, but I as you probably know, through physio, you do a lot of like placements, like work placements in the
Yeah.
NHS in hospitals.
Yeah.
And towards the end of my third year, especially the last couple of placements, I found them really, really stressful. Um, I think because essentially when my mum was really poorly, I spent a lot of time in hospital with her, and it had been not that long, in the scheme of things. And I had like a few panic attacks and, patients that maybe reminded me of things that had happened with my mum. And it was just all a bit like close to the bone. And I remember one of my supervisors saying to me in my third year, like, look, if you want to be a physio, you'll make a really good physio, but I think you should take some time out because this has been a really hard time in your life and it wasn't that long ago. And maybe you just need a little bit of distance. Like, what do you love doing? And I was like, I love climbing. And she was like, well, just go climbing, like take some time off, go climbing. Physio is always going to be here if you want to come back for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember just feeling like a bit of relief when she said that, like, oh, I don't have to go straight into a job when I'm finding it quite kind of emotionally hard to, be in that place.
Yeah.
Because obviously, physio, you start off doing like junior rotations. So, you rotate through different specialisms, and, a lot of that is hospital based and a lot of it's with quite poorly people.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I just wasn't in a headspace to be able to kind of manage that well at that point. Anyway, so I was like, right, so I got a job at the Climbing Works behind the desk and in Sheffield, and I like, yeah, I did like whatever jobs basically I could and saved up money and went away on climbing trips. And I think then because I was then in that kind of performance mode, I was like doing a bit more competing, doing a bit, outdoor climbing trips, but like again in that performance zone, so pushing a bit harder. Then I started to get a bit of support through brands, and then, and then it kind of just went from there. And I never ended up going back to physio because I
Yeah.
started to essentially a career in climbing.
Yeah. Cool. Cool. So you made your first, what is it? You competed first on the international scene in 2008, didn't you?
Yeah, I think it was that year. Was
Yeah.
it that year? That's the year I got on the team. It's not
Yeah.
normally comps in the second half of the year, though. I don't know when
I
my first
I
World Cup
I had a
is.
look on the IFSC website,
Oh,
and
there you go. Well, you know better than me then.
it said that you competed in 2008.
Oh, there was a Paris. You're right. There was a Paris World Championships, and that was my first one
Yeah.
because
How
it
was
was
that?
huge. It was a really big comp. It was scary. I
Yeah.
think I fell off at almost everything.
Okay.
Like,
Why
I
do you
don't think I did very well.
okay? Why do you think that was?
Oh, because I wasn't very good, I don't think at that point. Like I was good enough to maybe get on the British team, but I wasn't like on a world stage,
Yeah.
it massively ups. It's like, and I had no experience on a world stage.
Yeah.
And the boulders are harder and
Yeah.
everyone's really good.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, no, sorry, not to say I wasn't very good. That doesn't sound that doesn't feel like the right thing to say. But
Overwhelmed, maybe.
yeah, you go from being a medium-sized fish in a small pond to
Yes. Yeah.
a
Yeah. Yeah.
small fish
Yeah.
in a really big pond full of
Yeah.
really big fish,
Yeah. Yeah.
something like that anyway.
Yeah.
Um, like everyone's good. Everyone's really good.
Yeah. But it's a bit like that when I guess I'm a I guess a fairly average climber, but when I guess when I climb locally, I feel that I'm climbing at a pretty okay level, and then when I go to places like North Wales or Sheffield, I feel
Mm,
like a beginner
okay,
compared to
yeah.
everybody else there. Yeah, so similar feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's all context, isn't it?
Yeah, completely. Yeah, yeah. So how come you competed at bouldering and not sport as well?
Um, I don't really know. I'm not sure. And I often look back actually and think I should have done sport. I should have done the lead comps because I think I'm better at lead
Are you?
than I
Okay.
am at bouldering.
Okay.
But at the time, I was just bouldering loads and I was enjoying it. And I don't know if
Okay.
I'm better at lead than bouldering. I've always done both. But it's interesting to me as well that I never competed in lead.
Yeah.
And maybe I should have done,
Yeah. I mean,
but I didn't.
I,
Um,
I guess seeing a lot of your Instagram posts and like there's a lot of bouldering everywhere.
yeah, it's because I'm married to a boulderer.
Ah, okay. Well, it's Dave's fault.
Convenience, yeah. No,
Yeah.
no, I do love bouldering. I love them
Okay.
both, to be honest. And I go through phases. Like, I think initially at that phase, because I got on the bouldering team because that was the comp that I did.
Yeah.
I was psyched on bouldering then. I was going on bouldering trips. That was really my focus back then. And so I guess like I competitively, I was really grounded in the bouldering scene.
Yeah.
And I just never really went across to the lead team. I think back then, the lead team, the bouldering team was ace. Like, it was a good group of people. It had, it had a really good vibe to it. And I seem to remember the lead team being a bit like, I can't remember who was on it, but, just not many people on it.
Okay.
Like it wasn't as big and cohesive feeling as I remember it. And
Okay.
like I said, I can't really remember. But it was almost like, yeah, I just never really thought that much about it. And I think because I was always wanted to climb outside as well, it's actually quite hard to do everything
Yeah.
and to do it all well. So like if I wanted to boulder outside and sport climb outside and compete, I think it would be too much to
Yeah.
compete in two disciplines.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You just end up doing everything a little bit worse, don't you, if you
Yeah.
spread
Yeah. Yeah.
yourself too thin. And eventually that's why I stopped competing because I felt like I wanted to boulder outside, I wanted to sport climb outside, and I couldn't do those and keep up
Yeah.
and
With the
compete in
training.
a way that like turn up in the condition that I wanted to compete in.
Yeah. 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 Because it's quite hard, isn't it? When you're competing on the international scene, there's quite a lot of I know there's a lot of competitions, and I guess you got to squeeze in your training,
The
etc.
calendar is
Yeah.
wild, even if you're doing like one discipline. If you're doing two, it's
Yeah.
crazy. And it's lots of travel. And yeah, like you say, if you're gonna, essentially you're like a professional athlete in that kind of field and you need to be kind of training and building everything in a periodized way to then compete, to then have a small off season, to then do it all again.
Yeah.
And there isn't really space unless you're one of the top people. But even, I mean, recently Anya Garnbret took a year off, didn't she? Or she took out a bunch of comps where she didn't do a bunch of comps because she was like, I want to go and climb outside.
Okay.
And I think Brooke Rabbitu did the same thing recently, like took some time off after the Olympics to like
Okay.
go and pursue some of her goals outside.
Yeah.
Because I think even for those women who are absolutely at the top of their game, they need to be fully committed to the comps to be at the top of their game there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. So I think maybe it was partly that back then, like not wanting to spread myself too thin and really
Yeah.
enjoying the bouldering comps.
Yeah.
They were less like parkour as well. They're not that they're, I mean, they're a bit parkoury now, but like they're very modern now. Like there's a lot of like running and jumping and crazy,
Yeah.
really super impressive stuff. Like it's great to watch, isn't it? But I was
Yeah.
terrible at that stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, we didn't do that much of it. I remember there being like a couple of run and jumpy things, but mostly it was like there'd be a dyno or a double dyno. And those were the bits I was like the worst at.
Yeah.
But generally it was more basic.
Yeah.
So you could get away with back then, we are talking like nearly 20 years ago, you could get away with like being a strong outdoor climber and that transferred much better to the comps than it does nowadays. Whereas nowadays, I feel like most like top comp climbers are also good outdoor climbers, but not all outdoor climbers are good comp climbers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I mean, if you look at the competition style moves, how many competition style moves do you have on like outdoor boulders or sport climbs or track climbs?
Yeah,
You don't.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've never seen a running jump on a sport climb or a boulder problem.
Yeah, they're just quite different.
Yeah.
And I was grateful that that wasn't the style when I was doing it because I would have been terrible.
Yeah, I'm sure you would have found a way, right? I guess
Maybe, or maybe that's what it would have taken for me to switch to the lead comps.
maybe, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. So let's have a look at my notes. You stopped competing in 2014 because I guess you mentioned you preferred, you wanted to spend your time outside.
Yeah. Yeah, it was that. And I think I also had a really good season in 2013. And
Yeah.
then I was really psyched because I think I was like really close to making finals. I think I made finals in like one, what were they called? Not a World Cup, but like a comp where it's a similar group of people, but it's like a run by an Adidas or something. It was like a Rock Stars or something.
Okay.
But other than that, I got really close to making World Cup finals, but didn't quite make it. And I think I was like ninth overall in the world that year. So like I'd averaged really well. And I was like, oh, cool, I can build on this. And I was really psyched. And then it kind of flopped at the first half of 2014. It was like my performance just dipped and I, yeah, and I just really wasn't enjoying it. And probably because I wasn't doing as well, but also I was starting to feel that pull between outdoor climbing and comp climbing, and I'd put so much effort in to try and build on my previous years, and it just hadn't really come through. And so then I was feeling all this like, oh, I've spent all winter training for this, and now I'm not having the experience that I wanted to have.
Yeah. Okay.
I was disappointed, and if you're not doing well at comps, it's quite hard because you travel loads, it's quite a block of commitment.
Yeah.
You travel really far, you spend a lot of time on the inside of hotel rooms only to like go off and go out and fall off a few boulders. And then like if you don't get through to the next round, that's you done until
Yeah.
the next comp, which maybe you're going straight to because it's the next weekend, but it's in a different country and
Yeah.
so it's, yeah. And so I think halfway through that season, I just went, you know what, this isn't making me happy. I think it also coincided with it being like a really good grit season. So, all my friends at home that weren't competition climbers were like out on the grit, having a great time. And I think I just got a kind of grass is greener,
Yeah.
actually, maybe this isn't for me. I kind of had a moment of not feeling like I was spending my time in the way that maybe would make me the happiest.
Yeah.
So I
Is it
stopped.
is it quite lonely, like the traveling to climbing comps?
I mean, it depends. It can be. I think, I don't think it was for me because Shauna and I traveled a lot together at
Okay.
that point.
Yeah.
And that was really fun, actually. I really enjoyed that. And it was great. That was the time when she was doing really well. And it was brilliant to see her doing really well. It's obviously hard to travel with someone when they're doing really well and you're not. I mean, I was never going to be doing as well as Shauna. I didn't expect that because we were different levels.
Yeah.
But in terms of the goals I had set myself, I wasn't like happy with how it was going. So that was kind of hard. Um, but in terms of I guess it was lonely in terms of maybe feeling a bit meh about it. But it wasn't lonely in terms of, I was traveling with a friend and
Yeah.
there was lots of fun things on that kind of side. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess competing maybe long-term climbing on plastic when you're, I guess, innately an outdoor climber. Plus, like the traveling can get quite tiring. I guess we need some motivation, right? And maybe the climbing outside gives that extra fuel to motivate yourself to maybe want to go back to it at some point, and maybe that's where Yanya is as well, and Rabbitoo.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's
An
interesting. But for me, it was
inspiration.
like once I stopped, that was it. I kind of never, I don't think I've done a competition since,
Okay,
like even a local. I think I
okay.
literally haven't done one since. And I didn't plan for it to be quite so kind of clear cut.
Yeah,
I just, I was kind of felt done at the time, and then I didn't go back to anything. And then I just never really fancied doing any more local comps or anything.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so it was kind of, it was actually quite a firm line for me then.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything you learned from competing that you use in your or have used in your climbing? Anything, any kind of aspects of any kind of psychological aspects that you felt that you worked on whilst competing that you thought, ah, actually that could really work in my climbing?
Um, what that I could take to outdoor climbing.
Yeah,
I've had, I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of things. I'm struggling to think of a solid example. I guess the one key difference with comp climbing to outside climbing and what makes outside climbing, I think, psychologically easier is that, you know, in a comp, you've got about 5 minutes on that boulder in that moment. And if you can't pull it out of the bag, then that's it, it's gone. You'll never
yeah,
get to try that boulder again. You'll never get to kind of redeem yourself, as it were.
yeah,
You've got to wake up and climb well on that day. And that's hard. That's really hard. And
yeah,
when we see people doing these incredible things, it's easy to forget that they might not be able to do that every day.
yeah,
Or actually, they kind of, you know, they're maybe not at their best when they're doing those amazing things because they can't be at their best every day.
yeah,
But they don't get to choose the day. Whereas, if you've got a project at a sport crag or a boulder or something and it's bad conditions, you can just come back another day. Or if
yeah,
you don't sleep well, or you don't feel good that day, or your skin's bad, or, like any of those things, you can just be like, cool, I'll just come back another day. I'll have another session, or I'll come back next spring, or, anything.
yeah,
Like that flexibility with outdoor climbing, I think makes it easier to excel in. I think it also makes it for me more fun because it's like less stressful.
yeah. Okay,
Um, I like that about it.
okay.
I don't like being too stressed.
Try and reduce the stress as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I quite like the pressure. Like I've never like I'm not comparing myself to you, but the very few competitions that I have climbed, I quite like the pressure. I quite like that
Mm,
pressure, added
I
pressure,
think that's interesting.
and
And I
people
think that's,
watching.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So I don't think I do like that.
yeah. But then there is other times when I don't want anyone to watch.
Okay.
Yeah, weird. And
So I
sometimes,
think I think it must be like different personalities have different, because you're right, like the top competitive climbers must kind of thrive on that pressure, right? And maybe sometimes they do perform their best in those scenarios because it like drives them to, I imagine anyway. For me, I feel like too much pressure and I slightly fall apart.
okay,
Or if I get nervous, that kind of makes me fall apart. Like some of my hardest routes, or like I can certainly think of one of my hardest routes. I did. No, in fact, I can think of a few. Yeah, where like it's almost like your last go of the day and it's unlikely because you're tired.
yeah,
Like, I think there was a route at Malham called Bat Route that I did that was, I think it was like going dark. It was my fourth tie-in of the day and I'd been falling off halfway up. So like I was really tired. I probably shouldn't have had like I think I
yeah,
said to the friend I was climbing with Zippy, I think I was like, should I have another go? And he was like, oh, go on then. And I was like, oh, all right, it's good fitness. Like I'll have another go. But I'm unlikely to do it at this point
yeah, yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
tired. And
yeah,
then I fought my way to the top. But it's like that low expectation, suddenly
yeah.
like nerves drop away because you're not,
No pressure.
no pressure. And I had the same thing on the last day of a trip at Flatanger and I like managed to pull it out the bag because you think, well,
Oh,
I'm
whatever.
probably not going to do this route now because I've
Yeah,
only got today
yeah,
and it's probably not going to happen. You let go of it and then you
yeah, yeah, yeah.
managed to do it. And that's kind of more where I sit, I think,
Yeah.
psychologically when it
Yeah.
comes to
Yeah.
performance.
Yeah. No, I can empathize with that. I certainly I'm like that too. I think sometimes when you want something too much, you're, I guess maybe too tense, over gripping.
Mm. Too in
Yeah.
your head,
Yeah. In your head.
like
Yeah.
get in your own way, can't just actually just relax and climb.
Yeah, yeah. Again, relaxing, right? When you don't relax, you're over gripping and you're reducing your chances of
Mm.
having enough blood flow, oxygenated blood flow in your forearms to be able to complete.
Mm.
Yeah, and your
It's the
breathing's probably
same.
not very good either.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So when I'm like climbing on something, even if I'm not trying to do it that day, having the general mindset of like, this rock isn't going anywhere, whether I do it this week, next week, in 2 weeks, or maybe I don't do it this season, but it'll be there in the spring,
Yeah,
or it'll be there next autumn. That helps me to perform well in the moment.
yeah,
Um, yeah, definitely. Just as
yeah.
like an overall kind of mindset. Um, Whereas, like, for example, I'm not very good at flashing things. I'm also not that bothered about flashing things. It's
Okay.
funny, like, I just don't really, I'm not like that into it.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and I'm probably not very good at it because the idea of like a pressure on a flash go is like, I don't know, it's a bit stressful.
Yeah.
I'm just trying
Yeah.
to avoid stress at all costs, right? I just
Yeah.
want it to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
really
Yeah. Yeah.
fun. And the idea of flashing something, like if it happens by accident, I'm doing inverted commas, if it happens that I just happen to do something first go, I might be really pleased with that and be like, oh, I flashed this thing. And like
Yeah.
I'm like pleased with that as like it feels good to do something that's hard for you. But I rarely set the goal either outwardly or just in my mind of like, oh, I would really like to flash like this boulder problem or this route or this grade or something
Yeah.
because that process doesn't really appeal to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Does
I
that
was
make
having
sense?
a chat with Robbie Phillips last week or week and a half ago.
Yeah.
And he was talking about on-sighting, which I guess is the same thing, isn't it?
Mm.
Um, and he was saying, and which is something that I'd never thought of, is that to try and on-site something is much harder to on-site something at a lower grade than it is to have work to route at a higher grade. Because
Yeah.
having worked the route, you know what to expect. You kind of go into this automatic, everything is automated.
Yeah.
And I guess when you're flashing something, you're having to think on the go whilst under physical and mental pressure.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's harder in a different way, I think. I would agree with him on some of that, in
Okay.
that it's harder psychologically. I can see what he's getting at for sure. Like
Yeah.
at the point where you're strong enough to do the route, it's harder to on-site something at a lower grade because there's all the kind of mental element and like you say, the thinking on the spot and over gripping and all the rest of it. But it depends on what the difference in the grades is, right? But
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Sure. Yeah.
if you still have to be to climb something your physical limit, you have to be climbing at your physical best. Whereas maybe on an on-site, by definition, the physicality of the route is going to be well within you
Yeah.
because of the additional challenge of not knowing what's coming.
Yeah.
So it's almost like it's harder mentally, easier physically. Whereas
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
hard red point might be harder physically. I mean, it should be, right?
Yeah.
If it's a red point rather than an on-site, it's
Yeah.
going to be harder physically, but potentially easier mentally, although red points can get all in your head as well
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's interesting though.
yeah. So going back to what's the route you mentioned? Bat
Bat route at Malham.
yeah, Bat Route Mountain, that's 8C, right?
Mm,
So if you climbed that on a day when at the end of the day, when the sun was going down and you were tired, and you did that when you were physically tired,
mm.
does that then mean you could have, in the same mindset, could have potentially climbed something harder?
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bat route's, I guess, an interesting example. It was my second 8C. I've done four. It was definitely, I think Bat route was maybe like, I don't know. I'm terrible with grades, I don't think it's like super hard for 8C.
Okay.
Like, I did Raining Bats and Dogs a few years later. That's definitely a harder 8C. So I
Okay.
think um, I probably was capable of climbing harder than that route, even though I actually haven't climbed harder than 8C yet.
Okay.
Um, I think I've climbed routes that are, in different places within that grade range,
Yeah.
within that grade of 8C. Um, Also, I think there was a time when I was very capable of climbing harder than 8C, and I just didn't because I didn't I was trying Rain Shadow a
Okay.
lot. I put a lot of time into Rain Shadow. I had a great time trying it. Um, and I think when I was in my best shape on Rain Shadow, had I been trying an 8C plus or even a different 9A,
Yeah.
I was in 9A shape, I think.
Okay. Okay.
Um, but it didn't go that way with Rain Shadow. I never ended up doing it. And then I haven't probably been in that form since then, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
Okay.
So I think yeah, it's hard to say that because I kind of feel like it's a tricky thing, but I definitely feel like I had a time when I was stronger than what I had achieved on paper, but I never actually achieved anything on paper in that time.
Yeah.
But I know that I was kind of a level up from my previous max at that point. But
Yeah.
uh, yeah,
Yeah. Because if I
yeah,
guess
nothing to
if
show for
you're,
it at the end.
pardon?
But I ended up with nothing to show for it.
Well, but that's climbing, isn't
Okay.
it? It's climbing all over. I think if you can put so much time into a route and then you might not ever get there. And then if you do get that route, you'll probably jump on something else and then you'll never get
Exactly.
there.
I
Yeah,
think I
so
said to my husband once, I think the hardest route I've done is some of the links that I did on Rain Shadow.
okay.
Some of the links I did on Rain Shadow are probably harder than any of the routes I actually completed.
Okay.
Um, Maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to know. But
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. So like how much time did you spend on Rain Shadow?
a good few seasons. Like, oh, again, I'm terrible. I've got a terrible memory. But I think I can't remember exactly when I started trying it. I stopped trying it. My last session on it ever was in January 2019.
Okay.
And I probably tried it on and off for 2 years before that.
Okay.
Um, I think, the first season I tried it, I like dabbled with it a bit and kind of got interested. And then I went away and trained a bit. And then I tried it a bit more in the autumn and then a bit more in the spring. And then I had, yeah, I think I tried it kind of autumn and spring quite consistently for a couple of years. And then, I would train in the summer and the winter to try and get better on it.
Yeah. And then at some point you had an accident on Rain Shadow?
Yeah, so believe it or not, I had two accidents on Rain
Two
Shadow.
accidents. Yeah, well, I was going to
Literally
mention the
no
first.
one else,
Pardon?
no
Nobody
one
else.
else hurts themselves on this route.
Okay.
It's kind of odd. Like, because really now I feel like, because people have said to me, like, oh, will you go and try it again? If you could get back into that shape, hypothetically, would you go and try it again?
Yeah.
And there's lots of logistical reasons why I wouldn't, right? It's like 2.5 hours away from where I live now, and I have two children, and I can't really take on a project that kind of, I don't really want to.
Okay.
Um, but even so, I just think of it as dangerous.
Okay.
But I think that's just because I've had two bad personal experiences on it, and I don't know how I could make it feel safe.
Yeah.
And I'm not prepared to take the
That
risk
risk.
of either of those things happening again. That's just not a reasonable risk for me in my mind.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess, when you've had a traumatic experience on something, it then makes it even harder to then go
Yeah.
back and do that. So the first accident I had on it, I flipped upside down and hit my head. So I fell off the top of the crux. And it's a bit of a weird one, like Rain Dogs is like just off and then the roof kicks out and there's a bolt just so it is out in the roof a little bit, but not loads out. So that and it's kind of like this barrel boulder problem crux. So then if you fall off the very top of it, it can be a bit slammy essentially. And it can not be slammy as well. You need a really good dynamic belay on it. Um, but, I guess in that sense, there is a certain amount of um, potential human error there. Um, and just a bit of bad luck in how you fall off. Like I fell off, my hand fired off. So I fell off with and I was in like this drop knee. So I fell off with like a big rotational force.
Yeah.
And I had also lost a bit of weight. So my harness was not tight enough. I had it on full tightness, but I needed a size down, and I just hadn't done that, which was obviously definitely an oversight for me. So I, with this rotational force and the fact that it was a weird fall with where the bolt is and potentially a bit of a tight catch, and I just flipped upside down and I came in basically and hit the back of my head.
Okay.
And to be honest, I'm pretty lucky it didn't kill me. Like it
Yeah.
was, looking back, even at the time, I think I didn't realize over the years looking back at it, I've realized how serious it was and how lucky I was.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hit
Yeah.
my head really hard.
Yeah.
Um, and I it was a kind of, stretcher type scenario, yeah, full on. And luckily I was basically fine, but in the end I had a concussion. But in terms of like ongoing issues,
Just
I
the
had a bad
concussion.
concussion. Bad concussion. I didn't even need I don't think I had stitches even. I can't remember. I don't think I did.
Okay.
So I had a bad concussion. I do think my memory is bad, but it's hard to know because I can't really remember
Where I think
whether it
I
was
think
worse before.
you got two kids, right?
Well,
Quite young.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's hard to, I definitely had acute memory loss. Like I remember a month or two afterwards, I was on a trip in the States and I locked myself out of all my like bank accounts and everything. I couldn't remember any of my passwords. I remember sitting in a cafe crying because I was just like, I can't access money. I can't do anything. And I've
Yeah.
forgotten all my passwords. And when you ring up and you try and reset it, they want something else that you can't remember.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And I remember just being like, my brain does not work. I wanted to like knock myself in the face,
Engaged.
just be like, my brain is not working. Why won't you
Yeah.
work?
Yeah.
So there was definitely some kind of relatively short term. Having a bad memory now, who knows if that's to do with that or not?
Baby
Maybe it's a bit of
brain.
everything, bit of baby brain,
Yeah.
exactly. Um, so yeah, so there was that, but I think I was really lucky, that could have been worse. And I'm just really grateful that it wasn't.
Yeah.
Um, but I think because there were so many things that played into that fall being bad, I felt like I could go back on the route and I got a helmet and I wore a helmet on it and I basically deconstructed the fall to try, I got a harness that fit. I made sure I put roller drawers in and made sure I got a really dynamic catch. And I was like, oh, okay, I can kind of fix this so that I can keep trying this route. And I can kind of overcome this difficulty
Yeah.
and come back to it. Um, and I climbed on top rope to begin with, and then I gradually took, you know, expanded my comfort zone on it. But then, however long it was, I think that was 2017. So I think it was like a whole year and a bit later.
Yeah.
I essentially took the same fall again, literally the same move. I fell off, the same move. Harness fit fine, everything. So I remember coming in and starting to spin and thinking, I remember the moment of thinking, holy shit, this is going to happen again. And I put my arm out. I wasn't totally flipped, but I was like coming in at a funny angle and coming in a little bit hard. And I put my arm out to kind of protect myself and broke my wrist,
Oh
but quite
no.
badly. Like I put my arm out this way. So you know how you get the collar's
Yeah.
fracture when your palm is out, that classic, you fall off,
Yeah.
fall over, put your hand out. So it was the other way. So like palm in. And I remember like my palm came towards my
Oh
forearm,
my
like
God.
it impacted directly on the top of the wrist. So I
Oh,
shattered my radius, broke my ulnar,
yeah, oh my God.
and I shattered my radius through the wrist joint. So
Bloody hell.
it was like a total mess. Um, so I went to A&E and they did like a reduction on it, where they like give you all the good drugs and then like wiggle it around to try and get the bones like vaguely back in place.
Oh,
And then they re-x-rayed it and they were like, oh, okay, yeah, that looks a bit better. And then I was like, oh, do you think you'll like pin it or, will I end up with metal in my wrist? And I remember the doctor being like, I'm not being funny, but like, what do you want me to pin to what? Because it's shattered. Like, normally, if you have like a break of two, then maybe you pin them back together. And he was like, I can't really, we've just, what we're going to have to do is get it into a decent enough position, let it heal, see what your function's like. And then, potentially we could go back and re-break it and reset it and pin it or something in the future.
bloody hell.
And I was a bit like, oh my goodness. And do you know what? I've been so lucky again. Like it's not perfect. I mean, you can see the difference. See that one is like, it's
Yeah,
got
yeah,
this,
it's got a little bump on it. Yeah.
yeah, it's got this like lump on that side. It looks a bit more normal from that side,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
like my
yeah.
hand sits off to the side a bit.
Yeah, okay.
Naturally, it sits like that, and that one's like that. And I have
Yeah,
to
yeah,
like,
yeah.
that feels like I'm putting my hand in a weird position. It wants to sit there.
Okay.
Um, and like, and I've got like, I can't flex it as far.
Yeah.
but I can extend it really far. So like, I'm weaker on pinches, my thumb is weaker.
Okay.
And I'm undercuts are harder, painful, depends how aggressive they are. If they're like really like this, they're a bit painful.
Yeah.
But that being said, I'm still climbing. On a basic crimp, I'm as strong in my left hand as I am on my right. So again, I kind of got off quite lightly considering like your hands are so important for climbing, and I really smashed one of them.
Yeah.
And so after that, I was just like, do you know what? Something in this universe does not want me to climb Range Shadow. So, and
Yeah.
it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's plenty
Yeah.
of rocks out there, right?
I mean, having one accident on it and then going back to it.
I know, I was just kind of like, it taken so much mental strength and overcoming fear and overcoming what was quite a traumatic experience. Like I spent how many hours lying on Malham Catwalk, like waiting for mountain rescue and scared with blood everywhere. And then they stretchered me and vac packed me to a stretcher, and ended up getting helicoptered. Like it was quite an intense experience. It was
Yeah.
frightening because until you've had a scan to tell you that your brain is okay, you don't know
Yeah.
if actually maybe I'm going to die in half an hour.
Yeah.
I've just hit my head really hard. Everyone's looking really worried,
Yeah.
and I know that that was pretty bad. Do I have brain damage? Am I about to have a hemorrhage?
Yeah. Yeah.
Plenty of people hit the head and then die the next day.
Yeah.
It's like it's not, yeah, it's a big deal to hit your head hard.
Yeah.
And it was quite scary. And, there were times where I was like, oh, I might not be here by the end of today.
Yeah.
And yeah, once you know you're all right, everything kind of relaxes. But until that moment, it's quite a scary experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Of
And to
course.
have come back from that to then have like another accident on it, it wasn't even, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the breaking of the wrist was bad, and in terms of my climbing function, it wasn't great, but it was also that split second before I put my arm out that I thought I was going to hit my head again was almost the worst bit.
I guess maybe that was instinctive where you put your hand out because you're like, I
Mm,
don't want to hit my head.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So I listened to your TED talk on determination, and
yeah.
you mentioned you talked about rain shadow, and the first time you fell off it, it added an extra element that you can't remember the exact words you used, but an extra element for you to work on to then go back on. And
Mm,
it sounded like you were, I'm not sure whether that's before the second time you tried it.
yeah, it was.
That
Yeah.
you kind of you seem to like the idea of an extra element to work on.
Well, I guess that was my way of trying to take something difficult and reframe it and be like, right, okay, instead of, you know, kind of disintegrating at this difficult experience, I'm going to try and turn it on its head and make something out of it,
Yeah,
try and reframe it as this thing that I can work on, this thing that I can overcome that will make this experience even more special to me,
yeah,
even more of like a personal achievement.
yeah,
Because not only will I've, if I finally get up Rain Shadow, not only will I have kind of climbed this thing that's really difficult for me, I also will have like, it's like getting back on the horse and being like,
yeah,
oh, I was scared and I did it anyway.
yeah,
And like I overcame that fear.
yeah.
Um, and I guess that's what I was getting at, and that's the headspace I was in then.
Yeah, but I
And
guess
then
you did overcome that, right?
I did, yeah, yeah. And I was trying hard on it again.
Yeah,
And I
yeah, yeah,
was,
yeah,
when I broke my wrist on it, I was probably in my best form. And it's funny, my husband always is like, you were going to do it that spring. Because it was January. I was just having a little check-in on the boulder.
yeah,
You don't normally climb at Malham in January, but it was like a good conditions day. And I was just like, oh, I'll just go and like just check in on the boulder to see where I'm at. But I was going to train for a bit longer. And then I mean, who knows what would have happened that spring, but I was in really good shape. And my husband was always like, you were going to do it that spring. And I was
yeah,
like, well, we'll never know. Um, but yeah, yeah, it's a funny old thing.
yeah, yeah. You seem very determined personality, and I guess you're quite comfortable with trying hard.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I'm more chilled out now than I used to be. I used to be a little bit more kind of driven is the wrong word because I'd say I'm still driven. I think I'm a bit more relaxed about it, as I think most people get as they get older, right? Um,
Don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. Is that
Um,
fair to say?
I can only speak for myself. I'm quite I don't know, obsessed, quite driven.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But I guess maybe it's a very different experience for men as it is for women, possibly.
Maybe. I think also like my life dynamic is really different now. Like
Yeah,
there was a long time where climbing was, extremely central and, everything about my life was connected back to it. So all my eggs were in that basket and I loved that basket. It was great. I liked having all my eggs in that basket, but um, I guess it adds weight to everything that you do if everything that you do is in one kind of category.
yeah,
Whereas I guess now, I have kids and
yeah.
a family life and so like my son and my daughter don't care if I climb my project to
They
Raventall. If I
have
come down at
no,
the end of the day, they don't
no,
care. They're just
no.
like want to build something out of duke play with me and want to have a cuddle and read a book and like that's the most important thing. And when I get home from climbing, that's
Yeah,
the most important thing.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And that means more to me than anything else. So like there's, I guess, yeah, there's just a bit more complexity to life. And so climbing is still really important to me and I'll always be passionate about it. And I'll probably always push my climbing because I enjoy that element of it. I like
Yeah.
pushing it. I mean, I'm trying a route at the moment. I'm actually trying a route that's harder than anything I've done.
Okay, cool.
Interesting to see if I can do it.
Yeah,
But I really enjoy it. I like it. I like, taking something apart and trying to put it back together. And
you like the process.
yeah, I really like the process. So I'll always enjoy that. It'll always be one, there'll always be another route or another boulder problem.
Yeah.
And I hope there is for a long time, and they'll just get easier as I get older, probably. And that's
But
fine
they
too.
they will relatively still feel hard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
that's the joy of climbing, isn't it? Like it doesn't matter what level you climb at. If we climb at our physical or mental limit, doesn't matter whether you're an athlete or a beginner climber, we all experience the same feelings.
Yeah, and I really felt that actually postpartum with both my children.
Okay.
I wanted to get back to a level because it's a bit of a lottery having children on your body and what that's what how that's going to feel climbing postpartum and I really had in mind like, well, I just want to get back to a point where I want to be able to climb hard enough that the routes are interesting to me.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I think, for example, if I could only climb 4+, I would probably get bored because
Yeah.
the movement or 5+ or whatever isn't going to be interesting enough to kind
For
of keep me
you,
captivated.
for you with the experience you have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For me, with the experience I have,
Yeah.
that probably wouldn't feel satisfying, but I don't need to be climbing at my absolute hardest to be able to like work out a sequence or, share beta with someone or, all the rest of it. So I just kind of was like, oh, I want to get back to a point where, yeah, I'm climbing hard enough for it to be interesting. And then that's fine. Anything after that feels like a bonus,
Yeah.
which is a really special thing about our sport, I think, is that you can access it in different ways at different times of life
Yeah.
and it still be just as engaging.
Yeah.
And it really was like, I really had that experience postpartum, climbing much, much easier things, but than I had in my previous body, but really enjoying the process just as much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You see men and women climbing in their 70s, late
Mm.
70s, still climbing. I think I was up in Pembrokeshire last week, and there were some guys and girls in their 60s, late 60s, still climbing E2s,
Yeah,
E3s, and pushing
great.
some E4s, and you're like, wow, okay, that's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope I'm there at their age.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, still
Yeah,
able to
yeah.
climb.
Yeah.
So you worked really hard at Rain Shadow. You had your second accident, and then somehow you mentioned somewhere that you ended up finding out that you had what is it? Reds?
Mm.
REDS?
Yeah, Reds.
What's
Um,
Reds?
it's relative energy deficiency in sport.
Okay.
So it's essentially where you're underfueled as an athlete and your body kind of downregulates certain kind of basic processes in order to kind of conserve enough energy for the sport that you're doing. So it's essentially not really eating enough. Um, over potential, it depends on different different people have kind of different iterations of it, I guess. And it can come with kind of disordered eating or eating disorder, or it can come without, just unintentional reds, where you literally just not realizing that you're under fueling. Um, and yeah, I essentially like I basically always been quite interested in sports science, all that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
when I broke my wrist, I was like, oh, I'd been on the pill for years, and I was on a pill where it was very normal not to have your period.
Yeah.
It was like a mini pill, progesterone only pill. So I never had a period, but that was, that was medically normal given that I was taking a progesterone only pill. So I never really thought anything about it. And, even if you take a combined pill and you have a monthly bleed, it's just a withdrawal bleed from the pill. It's not a real period. Um, so I wasn't really in touch with my kind of cycle in any way. And to be honest, that had been really convenient for me over the years with competing and all the rest of it. Um, and so, but when I broke my wrist, I've basically been interested in coming off the pill for a while to see what my cycle was like. And I was reading a bit more about like training with your cycle. And I was like, oh, I'm kind of interested to see if maybe I would feel better off the pill. Like I've never been a climbing athlete not on the pill, like maybe higher levels of estrogen or maybe training alongside my cycle, I could actually feel a bit better, or like it's an interesting thing to me. But I'd never really wanted to like risk it, especially because I've been trying rain shadow and I've been really performance focused and everything had been going so well. I was like, oh, I don't really want like to come off the pill and have these massive, I don't know what that looks like, right? And I
Fluctuations in
might be like really up and
hormones.
down for a bit. Maybe I'll feel worse and then I'll
Yeah.
regret it and then it'll take me like months to get back on track. And so it never felt like a good time to kind of experiment with it.
Yeah.
So then when I broke my wrist, I was like, well, that door's closed for a bit. I'm not going to be performance climbing for a while. So maybe I'll come off the pill and just see how I feel generally physically. Because I was still doing other stuff. Once my wrist had, I had 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks in a cast, and then I was doing physio and I was like swimming and I was going to the gym and doing other exercises. So I was still like active. And I gradually started climbing again. But again, had to build up. I wasn't climbing very hard initially because obviously of grip strength and stuff. But I was like, oh, now would be like a good time to just like come off and see. And so I came off the pill and basically nothing happened. Nothing happened. And months went by and then I was like, oh dear, this isn't good. So then I went to the doctor and I was like, yeah, nothing's happening. What's going on? And my doctor was actually quite good. He was like, I don't understand. So no, he did. He said that later. He said, oh, well, let's just do some blood tests. Then he rang me and he was like, these blood tests are not normal, but I don't understand. I don't know what this is. It doesn't show me anything that I am like, oh, this is PCOS or this
Yeah.
is, any of these things. Um, what he said was that I looked like I had, the hormonal profile of someone who'd been through the menopause, essentially. Like my estrogen was through the floor low, my testosterone was through the floor low. Everything was just like flatlined. Um, so I got referred on for some like other to like endocrinology. But the referral was taking ages, and I basically started doing a load of reading, and I was like, huh. And I came across Renee McGregor and Dr. Nikki Key, who are kind of not Nikki Key is like a medical endocrinologist, but specializing in sports,
Yeah.
and Renee McGregor is a dietitian. And around that time, I'd already been studying nutrition. I had an interest in nutritional science. I'd been studying nutrition already for a bit, and I'd come across REDS um, in my studies, but I had never identified as someone that would, I just didn't think that was me, right?
Yeah.
Um, but because I was aware of it, it was just a nagging in the back of my head because I was like, oh, that could cause amenorrhea. But I always just was like, well, I'm not underweight. I was slim. Um, but I was a bit like, well, no, I don't know if that's me. Anyway, I got in touch with Rini and Nikki looked at my bloods and she was like, this looks like Reds to me. But it's a diagnosis of exclusion. So we looked at some other things. I actually had an MRI because they want to double check that you haven't got like a pituitary tumor, because that can give you amenorrhea. So that it's definitely like, there are other things it could be, but looking at my bloods and various some other tests, eventually I was diagnosed with RED-S. Sorry, it used to be called RED-S and now it's called RED, so I sometimes call it RED-S.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, it was a bit of a shocker to be honest. It felt really out of the blue to me. And I was a bit like, oh, this isn't, I didn't want to find this out.
Yeah,
It all kind of happened a bit by accident,
yeah,
all in all kind of because I broke my wrist.
yeah.
Um, and so suddenly, I was just getting back into climbing after the wrist break, less than a year. And they were telling me I needed to put on weight, to um, exercise less, and to let my body kind of reset a bit.
Okay,
And that's what I did.
okay.
Um,
So what caused it? Like what caused the red S? Is it because you were training too hard and not fueling enough, or you
yeah,
weren't resting
essentially.
enough?
A bit of everything. But essentially it's an energy availability issue. So it's having enough energy available for the exercise that you're doing. So it's having enough food going in, energy
Right.
intake going in for what you're doing. So, you can affect that balance either way. You could eat more and exercise the same, or you could exercise less and eat the same,
Yeah,
and the balance shifts a little bit, or you could exercise less and eat more, which is what I did in the end.
yeah,
And it depends how deep into the hole you are. And I think
yeah.
I was pretty deep in the hole. I think I'd probably been in a state of reds for a few years without knowing.
Okay.
So it took a lot of untangling. And I think I was also, different people have different genetic kind of set points of body composition. I think I was probably just meant to be a little bit heavier than where I was, even though I didn't look like someone that was, I just went, oh, well, my BMI is over 18, so I wouldn't be classed as underweight by, say, the IFSC or something.
Yeah, yeah,
But maybe naturally, genetically, I need to sit at a BMI of 20 or 21, or, you know, um, I guess that's the thing. It's quite an individual thing.
yeah,
What health looks like for each person can be quite different.
yeah.
Um, so
So
yeah, I essentially ate more and exercised less.
so were there any telltale signs looking back that I guess you could see that there were some flags?
Yeah, so I was cold a lot
Okay,
and cold at night a lot. Really struggled to keep warm.
okay.
Um, I definitely had some like again like poor memory, brain fog type stuff. But again, I put a lot of that down to my head injury. Um, I feel like there were other things I kind of can't remember now. Um, I used to get a lot of urinary tract infections.
Yeah,
Again, maybe related, maybe not related, but like integrity of tissues in that area of the body can, if you're lower estrogen, the integrity of your if your tissues in that area can not be as happy, and then you can be more prone to things like urinary tract infections
yeah,
or
yeah,
pelvic
yeah,
floor issues,
yeah,
which I did have a bit as well. So, like there's lots of things, and I was really tired. I was really tired, but I just put it down to training.
yeah,
I was training a lot. I was active. I just thought I was a normal level of tired.
yeah,
Whereas, looking back, I was really like I had a bit of I would go into these like totally like wiped out sleeps. I would sometimes need sleeps in the afternoon. But then people, I would just thought, oh well, lots of athletes have little naps in the
yeah,
afternoon. And they do. And sometimes that's healthy. And sometimes
yeah, yeah,
maybe in my case it wasn't really. Um
yeah.
yeah.
So
But yeah, nothing that you're like, oh yeah, that was really obvious.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah,
definitely had some, I think I don't identify as having had an eating disorder per se, but I definitely had like some disordered patterns around eating, some, I guess rigidity around
yeah.
eating.
So is it classed as an eating disorder?
What, Reds?
Yeah.
No, no.
No. Okay.
It often comes with eating disorders, but it doesn't
Okay.
necessarily.
Yeah. Okay.
Reds is literally it's relative energy deficiency in sport. So it's an athlete that is not doesn't
Fueling
have
enough. Yeah.
yeah,
So
doesn't have enough fuel,
so
an
so
underfueled athlete.
yeah. So for
There could be many
example,
reasons that someone's underfueled. They could be underfueled because they have an eating disorder. They could
yeah,
be underfueled because they just aren't eating enough by accident,
yeah,
or they've massively increased their training volume. But a lot of exercise can blunt your appetite, so you
yeah,
can
yeah, yeah,
inadvertently
yeah.
not eat enough.
So if you're climbing, if you're doing some big walling or some alpine climbing or some, I know, winter climbing where you have some breakfast and you go most of the day with a snack bar or two, uh, would that be considered reds?
No, so reds is if you're doing it for a day, you're
Yeah,
probably fine. Like the body's
okay.
really dynamic and it's really good at dealing with kind of short-term deficits and short-term, more food than you need as well. It's not
Yeah.
like, if you go out and, eat 10 pizzas, you're not gonna gain the equivalent amount of like, if you were to work that out in calories and then grams of fat, or, like you wouldn't be putting on that much weight because your body is able to kind of like manage
I
a
might.
certain amount of flux. Um, but red is what happens when someone is chronically underfueled.
Okay. Okay. So it's a more of a long-term thing and not just the
Yeah.
short. Okay, cool.
So if you're making, I guess, if you're creating too much of a deficit over a longer period of time,
Yeah.
then yeah, your body, it's like putting your phone on saving mode,
Yeah.
battery saving mode. It
Okay.
just like down regulates because it starts to go, oh well, I don't have enough energy for this. So I'm just gonna like switch off some stuff to
Okay.
save.
Okay.
Um, because your body, I guess, doesn't really trust that that food is going to come in that it
Yeah.
needs.
So has that experience, so you said you had an interest in nutritional sciences, and has that also, that combination with your experiences, um has that kind of fed your interest in nutrition more so?
Pun intended.
Pun intended, yeah.
Fed my interest. Sorry.
So that wasn't
Um,
intended.
it was great. I enjoyed it.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
It definitely changed the way I thought about food and eating.
Okay.
That whole experience for sure.
Yeah.
I think it was a real wake-up call for me because I think I had like quite an academic, I guess, understanding of some of the things, some of the kind of um, principles around that kind of situation, but going through it personally gave me a really different insight and a different perspective into it. And it changed my overall perspective on nutrition and food and eating in an athletic population,
Yeah.
um, in a good way, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel that nutrition can have a really positive experience on performance?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I think people can really optimize their nutrition to kind of get more out of their kind of training and climbing and recovery and
Yeah.
in like an additive sense. I think especially in climbing, there can be a culture of like a reductionist culture around food
Yeah.
and eating.
Yeah.
Minimal effective dose. How little can I eat so that I can stay light but have enough energy to do X, Y, Z,
Yeah.
rather than thinking, well, what if I maximize how much can I eat while staying in this physique in
Yeah.
order to kind of optimize my energy stores and get the most, maybe I'll have one more go that session. Maybe I'll be able to keep going for more pitches in a day or
Yeah.
like I think sometimes people don't are thinking in the wrong direction.
Yeah. I
But I
mean,
think that's starting to change
yeah.
genuinely.
Climbing is definitely a weight to strength ratio, right? So if we can lose
Mm.
weight and climb harder, like
You can gain strength and climb
yeah,
harder.
supposedly. So
Mm.
so I guess there are some athletes, and I'm not going to name any names in the limelight, who might might go on a diet to
Mm.
lose a few extra pounds to be able to climb harder. Personally, like if that's their choice, that's fine. Personally, I don't like it.
Mm.
It just sets and I'm not judging those people, but it just sets a bit of a bad example. And I think I have noticed some athletes, especially younger athletes, who look like they definitely need to um, add weight to look more healthy, who
Mm.
are climbing at a high level. So I
I think
think,
it's really, really difficult space to navigate, especially when we're talking about elite sport, because
yeah,
I think it's really difficult, where health and performance intersect, because, top performances aren't always in the same space as health. And so, as a sport and a kind of culture around that sport, we have to almost like hold two very different things at the same time.
yeah,
Like we're trying to hold like optimizing performance. And of course, those top athletes, it's their life, it's their career. They want to perform their best whilst also kind of protecting and maintaining their health. Like those are two difficult things that a lot of the time can add up. And I genuinely do believe that like the healthiest athletes will probably perform the best, especially in the long run. And I think we are seeing examples of that in our sport. but I think they don't always match up super easily. And I also think weight loss in a weight dependent sport is really tricky. It's a really tricky area because, of course, it's, especially in elite sport, it is pretty standard in other sports as well to fluctuate weight through seasons, to have an off season where athletes gain weight and then a season, a time of their year where they lose a bit of weight in order to perform, and then they put that weight back on again. And
Yeah,
the question is whether that can be done in a healthy, managed
yeah,
way.
yeah,
And a lot
yeah,
of athletes at that top level have nutritional support and psychological support in order to kind of manage that flux.
yeah,
I think the difficulty comes is when in the wider community we see that without the context, without all the support that those top athletes have, and then we have people that don't have all that support trying to mimic it. And that's where it gets a bit dangerous because
yeah, yeah,
people just cut out food groups or
yeah, yeah,
diet really hard and their health suffers. But the people that are doing it at the top are not all of them, obviously, but some of them will be doing it safely and well.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
maybe.
it's not always um yeah, I think it's complicated. It's interesting actually in the book that I'm publishing with Vertebrate Publishing, it's called Eat to Climb, and it's a book about climbing nutrition essentially. But one of my favorite parts about it actually is it's got like 10 stories in it from different climbers where I interviewed climbers and then I ghost wrote their stories. Um and I've got some stories in there. I won't give you too many spoilers, but there's some stories in there from like some top climbers who've had
Okay.
difficulties around weight management.
Yeah.
But there's also one from a top climber, Aidan Roberts, who talks about losing weight for a project
Okay.
and how it helped him to send that project, and he would do it again. But there's a really interesting discussion in the story. Like he's very kind of cognizant around the issues, and he's like, this, I didn't take this lightly. I took loads of support. This is how I did it. I also struggled with it in these ways, and if I did it again, I would do it differently.
Yeah.
But he makes a very valid point that in elite sport, you may need to manipulate your body composition. That's it's a part of elite sport. And I think would be naive for us to just say like, no one should ever lose weight for climbing. Because I think what that does is it's like, then people are doing it anyway, but they're ashamed to be doing it because they feel like they shouldn't do it. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? It just
yeah,
swings the other way, and we end up with
yeah.
this really polarized situation where like we either got this 1980s culture of no one eat anything, everyone lose weight for climbing, to like now I feel like we've almost swung slightly the other way to be like, there's shame around if you do want to change your body composition for climbing.
Yeah,
Um, so I don't know, I think it's difficult and I think it's really nuanced,
yeah,
is probably my
yeah,
short answer.
yeah. Okay. Okay. Taken. Um, I guess a couple of things that I wanted to like something else that I wanted to talk about is
Sorry, I'm just
something
going to
that
turn the
I've
light on in here.
yeah,
Everyone's
sure.
glaring at the screen.
It's all right.
Right. No, it's all right. It's just the glare back from the screen was making me do this.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay. You weren't just getting bored. Uh,
No.
so what one I'll mention on the podcast, where can they get your book from?
Well, it's actually just gone to print this week, so I guess it depends
Mm.
when the podcast comes out, but it's available on pre-order from Vertebrate Publishing
Vertical
from the
publishing.
12th of September, and then the full launch is in October,
Okay.
I think in the middle of October.
Okay.
So, but it'll be available in all the kind of usual places, like direct from Vertebrate, but I mean, I think it's going to be on Amazon and,
Where do you get the most amount of money from?
I think if you get it direct from the publishers.
Okay, cool. Right. So I'll put that link in. Cool.
Amazing, thank you.
Um, so something that I've noticed is that you mentioned that your menstrual cycle wasn't happening from overtraining. Something that I've having had discussions with a few people is that when younger girls go into high performance sports, uh, training at a high level, their bodies almost don't allow them to go into puberty.
Mm,
I noticed it with I'm not going to name her name, but I noticed it with somebody that I know who was performing at a super high level, and at the age of I think it was about 15, 16 when she stopped training, her body then allowed was allowed to go through puberty and
mm,
kind of have her menstrual cycle and gain the weight that women do.
Mm.
And yeah, I think I've noticed, like, I think, and having spoken to a few people who've also been through that stage, it's yeah, it makes you think that climbing maybe sh it's or performing at a high level at a young age is maybe not um doesn't have to say it's not so healthy possibly for some women, and it's much easier for men.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I would like to learn more about actually, is kind of the effect of performance and training on like young female athletes. And I think it's a difficult time for a lot of girls who are into sport because I mean, you obviously do have cases where like puberty is delayed, but you also have a lot of girls that love their sport and then hit puberty and everything becomes a bit more difficult. Breasts can be uncomfortable, periods start, body composition changes, usually not in favor of an athletic body composition. So, you get this kind of, children are all the same and they're really enjoying their sport, and then
Yeah,
men go through puberty and basically get better at everything. And
yeah,
women get into this all this kind of, you know, hormonally driven changes that aren't necessarily compatible with high level sport.
yeah,
And often for a lot of female athletes, it's just a turbulent time that then settles down. But in that time, we lose a lot of female athletes.
yeah,
Dropout
yeah,
rates during puberty are high because
yeah,
it's can be uncomfortable. A lot of women stop running because breasts are uncomfortable and we're
yeah,
not maybe potentially educated well enough on like getting good bra support, or they're not available.
yeah,
Um, or being self-conscious around body changes, body image.
yeah,
Um, Periods, and outdoor sports, like, go somewhere like a crag somewhere, like where are you going to change your tampon? Do you know what I
yeah, yeah,
mean? Like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
difficult.
yeah,
Sometimes knowing where to pee can be difficult enough, but if you've got
yeah,
to kind of deal with sanitary issues and then you have, I don't know, if you have a really heavy period, that
yeah,
could make someone just be like, "Do you know what? I'm just not going to go out climbing today."
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
then you're just doing it a little bit less than your male counterpart, or there's just more barriers. And I
yeah,
think it's a really it's an area that deserves a lot of attention because this is the beginning of women's sporting life, and
yeah,
there's a lot of women that maybe if those barriers weren't there would be more into sport, whether it's
yeah.
climbing or something else in their later lives. And then it feeds into women's health. Sorry, I could talk about this forever.
No, please
It
do.
like you know,
I'll be
we build a
asking
lot
more
of our bone
questions about it
density.
anyway.
We build a lot of our bone density in our younger years,
Yeah,
and bone density for women, postmenopausal women, is a huge risk factor for kind of frailty and fractures and falls,
yeah,
and and so doing sport in our younger years is actually building muscle mass and optimizing bone density in our younger years has a huge impact on our health when we are older women,
yeah,
and um so, it's not just the then, it's also the later, and also just the experience of sport in life. Like personally, climbing and doing sport has been such a source of joy for me in so many different ways. It's been really central to my life, and I feel really grateful that um I was able to kind of almost like get through the turbulence. I mean, I did stop climbing for a couple of years for other reasons, but to kind of get through that turbulence and come out the other side and still love climbing.
yeah,
And I don't think everyone's that kind of privileged and lucky. So yeah, I think there's a lot to learn in that space.
yeah. So how I guess how can you see women be potentially more comfortable with all of those things that you described? I mean, I can come up with
That's a
some
huge
suggest.
question.
It is a huge question. I can certainly come up with some suggestions. I think I think speaking from a I guess man's perspective is that I guess we don't have a clue what you guys go through, right? Um, and I think I think it would really help that men are educated from an early age about everything that kind of goes on, so we have an understanding, but for it also to be a topic that's openly talked about, so that one, when we are younger boys, we don't kind of laugh when those issues are talked about, and that causes women to not want to talk about it. And I think the more we talk about it, I think the more it becomes accepted, the more it's just like an everyday thing, right? Because it is.
Yeah, yeah, it needs to become less taboo to talk about these things because
Yeah,
then the more we can talk about them, the more we can actually then address them. And, people have ideas, and, but if it's not even in dialogue in the beginning, then, it's like a moot point because we're not even talking about it, right? So I
yeah,
agree with you. Like, yeah, and we need more research. We need more research that's kind of directly on women and
yeah,
women in that population.
yeah,
Um, because essentially a lot of data that we have is based on men
yeah,
and then extrapolated to women.
yeah,
And I think, yeah, there's a lot to learn in that space really
yeah, I
around these barriers and talking to women and what would you need, in your experience, what would you need to feel safe or to feel comfortable in a climbing wall, and
yeah,
what does that look like for a young woman from this background? And what does it look like for a young woman from that background? And what does it look like for a young woman from this ethnic minority,
yeah,
or this community? Because everyone's, it's difficult, isn't it? Because we have this kind of male female thing, but then also all women are different and have different backgrounds and different needs. And, some will have issues with sports bras and some won't have issues with sports bras. And some get really bad period pains and some don't get period pains at all.
yeah,
And so there's not like a one size fits all
yeah, yeah,
kind of
yeah,
conversation. Um, and that is difficult, but I don't think it's insurmountable. Like not, I think in the past it's felt maybe like almost like it's too difficult to address. And I think that's
yeah, yeah,
really not helpful.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think, like you mentioned, I think it'd be interesting to know, I guess, how the fluctuations in hormones affect women's performance in any sport.
Mm.
Um, I think I read a really interesting book called Raw by
Stacey Sim.
Stacey Sims, yeah, which I thought was really interesting, and I thought I needed to, especially if I because I had some or have some female clients that I coach and occasionally write training programs for. I
Mm,
need to feel the need. I need to understand how these
mm,
things affect women
mm,
because we're not like men. I think men don't have those fluctuations. Um, but something that I would be really, really interested in, and again, it's going to be different from person to person, is what are the psychological effects of the fluctuations in hormones? What
mm,
psychological effect does that have on a woman and her performance?
mm. Yeah, I mean that's to be honest, that's not something I know that much about. I'd be really interested as well.
No,
Yeah,
yeah,
and again, like you say, I think it really varies. Like just anecdotally, I know some women feel more scared in the lead up to their period, like say, scared while climbing.
yeah,
And yeah, I think there's quite a variety in experiences. That's
yeah,
that's one that I've heard a fair few times from kind of other female climbers is feeling more scared or just more like not in a performance zone in the
yeah,
kind of lead up to the period, so the kind of end of the cycle.
yeah,
Um, mm.
yeah,
And sleep. That's another one is that a lot of women have quite disrupted sleep, which then can, I guess, lead into how you feel psychologically.
yeah,
Because if you're not sleeping well, that just obviously can kind of amplify all the other things.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. On that note, how's your sleep?
Not great.
No, okay, okay. So how is it with two children?
I mean, probably just how it is for most people with two children. I think
Yeah,
children just don't sleep well, do they?
no, they
Where did
don't
that
know.
phrase sleep like a baby come from? Like,
I
no
don't
one
know.
wants
Do you
to
know
sleep like a baby. They sleep terribly.
they do? They cry all
Um,
night. They wake you up. It's like, yeah,
yeah, no, my daughter's definitely like my son's 4. He sleeps mostly through the night. He sometimes
okay,
comes and gets in our bed. I say our bed. I don't sleep in there much because I mostly sleep with my daughter on a floor bed.
okay.
because yeah, she still wakes quite frequently in the night, and I still breastfeed her, so I kind of sleep with her and I feed her to sleep mostly at the
Yeah,
moment.
yeah. It gets easier.
Yeah, no, I'm sure
Yeah.
it will. I
That's
mean, I've been through it with my son, like he didn't sleep through for a long time, and then eventually he did, and then you forget about all the sleep deprived times, and I'm
yeah,
functioning pretty well, to be honest. Like, I'm definitely tired. I'm kind of, tired in that like chronic tired,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
um, I think, yeah, it's fine. It's sustainable at the moment. It's not ideal, but it's
yeah,
sustainable. I would love to sleep through the night again. That would be
yeah.
really nice.
Yeah, I
Um,
think like before having children, I thought a few all-night parties would set me up great for those sleepless nights with kids, and
yeah.
yeah, hits you like a train.
Yeah, but it's also kind of amazing how the body can be quite resilient. Like if you told my younger self this is how disrupted your sleep will be,
Yeah.
I would just be like, well, I couldn't possibly go climbing after a night's sleep like that.
Mm.
But because every night is like that, unless you just decide to give up climbing, you're going to have to just go climbing after a
Yeah, yeah,
night
yeah,
like that.
yeah,
And then actually, kind of, once I've got up and I've had a coffee and, I'm kind of okay. And then
yeah,
I'm tired at the end of the day.
yeah. It is
But,
incredible. Yeah, it is incredible. Like I think we had a really tough time with our eldest, um, and I think some nights we'd have quite regularly 2, 3 hours sleep, and both of us were
mm,
in the same room in the same bed with our son there because
mm.
we thought that that was the right thing to do. Yeah, and we went for a long time without good sleep, and it
Mm,
was amazing how the I could all the if I look back the things that I did with work and uh, being safe and climbing, and I look back
mm.
and think, how did I function?
Yeah, but you just do, don't you?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. You just do.
it's yeah, it's an odd one.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong though, I'm gagging for a full night's sleep. It'll be amazing when it comes.
So I won't keep it too long because I know that you want to go and get some sleep.
Well, I do, yeah, I do go to bed very early. That's how I function.
I
Is I go
know,
to
cool. So I'll ask a few more questions and I'll let you go to sleep if that's okay.
yeah.
So what is your what's your strength, your psychological strength in climbing, your superpower?
Being pretty determined and driven,
Okay, yeah.
maybe.
I would have guessed that with the amount of things that I managed to reel off and achievements you've had.
Yeah, probably that.
Yeah. Have you always been determined?
Mm, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Kind of like, yeah, I'm quite like a finisher completer. I like to solve a problem and kind of, percolates if I like to kind of, yeah, yeah, I think so. I think I've always
Okay.
kind of been like that. Not necessarily in everything, but certainly in climbing.
Okay. Cool. And what's your weakness, your psychological weakness in climbing?
I get scared. Like I
Okay.
get scared above my drawers, sport climbing. I
Okay.
get scared on runouts. I get scared high on boulders.
Okay.
If I'm doing things more,
Yeah.
then I get better in that space, but I feel like it's always something I have to work on.
Okay.
I'm not one of these people that can just take massive lobs and
Okay.
not, or do a massive run out and not even think about it. I'd say my baseline is to be quite squared and I can practice and I can kind of um, do more of something and gradually kind of increase my comfort zone. But
Okay.
it's like worked on for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like because I split between, like I might just like boulder for just a year
Yeah.
or something and not a tie-in. Like I've just started sport climbing again recently and I hadn't sport climbed for 2 years, partly because I had a baby in that time,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I hadn't properly sport climbed apart from a bit of top roping when I was pregnant, but I hadn't lead climbed for 2 years and I feel like I'm starting all over again. I'm
Yeah.
scared above my bolt and I have to like gradually, work up to it. Even though I've been climbing for 30 years, more than 30 years, nearly, um, it's still something I need to work on.
Well, it's I think falling in climbing is quite an unnatural thing, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean, I have also had a couple of bad experiences with it, I think plays into it.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's the same on boulders, actually, like being high and yeah, yeah. I think it's quite natural though. In some ways, I'd be more worried if that was just completely absent.
Yeah, yeah,
Keeps
yeah,
me safe, probably.
yeah,
Although not always, because I think sometimes if you're an extra nervous, you can be a bit more kind of awkward or land badly, or
yeah. But
sometimes the safest thing is to go for it.
yeah, but I think you mentioned on the first time you hit your head on rain shadow, you had a hard catch. So maybe there was a bit of an error with regards to the B layer. Maybe I'm saying maybe.
Mm,
And the second time around, you said you did get a soft catch, but maybe because you were anxious, maybe, and tense, you weren't as loose. And I guess you said it's an
yeah.
awkward fall anyway.
I think with both of them, I think neither catch was perfect, but neither
Okay.
was awful either. Um, and I think there were just multiple things going on
Okay.
with both. But no, I wouldn't have said because in the moment that I fell with both of them, I was trying really hard. I was focused on doing the move.
Okay.
Um, I don't think either time it was that necessarily played into it, but I do see what you mean though. Mm.
Yeah. Okay. So what advice would you give any climber wanting to work on a part of their head game? How could they work on determination, or how could they work with any fears they have in falling?
Um, well, I mean, I don't feel like I'm an expert in this area at all.
I just
Um,
asking you your advice. What do you do?
with fear and falling, I would gradually work on expanding your comfort zone, but not too fast. So, I mean, a lot of this is from conversations with I'm good friends with Hazel Finley, who does all the strong mind stuff, and um, she's often saying, not to kind of, I think sometimes it's tempting to be like, right, well, I need to go and take the fall from the worst possible place, like go, what's the most run out place I'm going to be on this route, right? I'm going to go and practice that fall. And then people just re-traumatize themselves
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
scare
yeah,
themselves.
yeah, yeah,
And I remember her saying to me, well, just fall off from underneath the bolt first. That should feel quite easy and then fall from next to the bolt and then fall from like just build it up slowly and kind of give yourself time and patience. And I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be under the bolt, but I guess what she was getting at, and I agree with, is start with something that doesn't feel too scary and slowly build it up
yeah,
rather than kind of jumping in the deep
yeah,
end.
yeah, yeah,
And the same with, highballing. Don't try and kind of get rid of your fear by doing a massive highball because it's probably just going to terrify you and like totally re-traumatize you and you'll never do a highball again.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Practice jumping off from below the move where you think you're going to be scared and
yeah.
then
And building up the
and things
confidence.
things like actually get good at jumping off and get good
Yeah,
at falling.
yeah, yeah.
And
It's
making sure you're always climbing with someone that breeds that confidence in you, whether that's from a V-lane perspective or a confidence perspective or like a spotting perspective.
yeah.
Things like that. And then determination, I don't know, because I think for me, determination comes from just a place of really, really loving it. I
Okay.
really love it. I love the whole process. So I'm just kind of pretty psyched most of the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I don't necessarily feel like I know how to work on that.
Yeah.
That
Maybe it's a
feels quite
skill. Maybe it's a
basic.
skill you've developed over the years where you've tried and tried and tried, and now I guess determination is just there. Maybe you
Oh,
have
it's just a bit of a personality trait.
a natural inclination plus positive experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I definitely think with the falling stuff, I far too often see people jumping into the deep end and not taking gradual steps, or not starting easy.
Mm,
And if you push yourself too far, it creates negative experience, and then you start to associate negative feelings with that sport.
mm,
Yeah, definitely little bits, lots of it at a
mm.
at a rate that works for you as an individual.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Mm.
cool. Thank you for your time, Mina.
You're
I'll
very
let you
welcome.
go. I can see eyes
Sorry, can
drifting. No, it's all
you
right.
see me starting to flag?
Yeah, don't worry. Don't apologize. You got two kids. Yeah. And thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
I hope you guys enjoyed this chat with Mina. I certainly did. She's got a book coming out, which is called Eat to Climb. It's coming out the end of October. I'll put the link in the description. Please check out Vertebrae Publishing, where her book will be available, is currently available to pre-order. If you guys have any suggestions of people that we could interview or topics to talk about, please send us an email or a message and we'll get back to you.